Hello, everyone. I don't need a mic because I used to teach body count.
Okay.
So we would like to thank our hosts, Berklee. It's such an amazing collaboration. A little bit of a background on Riwaq al-Fikr. It's basically pathways of knowledge, and they're a series of talks that we would like to incorporate year-round with strategic partners such as Berklee in order to create more conversations about the challenges and opportunities we face within our culture and creative industries. As you may know, ADMAF has been a leader when it comes to supporting the CCI sector. For more than 20 years, they have been generating this kind of culture, specifically when it comes to music and performance arts. They were the first to bring people like Andrea Bocelli, Mr. Copeland to the region. Just 2 days ago, we've had a UAE premiere of Gregory Porter as well that was here.
It was amazing.
So, yes, and I think we saw you there.
Yeah.
Yes, so thank you for coming.
Thank you very
So
much.
you have the programs here with you as well. Check it out. Once again, thank you so much for Berklee, and thank you for our panelists, and the stage is yours.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you all. My name is Saeed. I'm arts and culture writer for The National. Welcome to Riwaq al-Fikr, ADMAF Talk in collaboration with Berklee Abu Dhabi. And today's conversation, it's a very important conversation, is Emirati musician challenges and opportunities. We're having this discussion on the back, really, as we just turned the 1-year anniversary of the UAE being designated as a city of music by UNESCO. So it's a good time to have this conversation. It's a good time to kind of reflect about what is it, like, what does that mean, what it is. And because this is something as well that I had to do as a journalist as well. Like, when we won that, when we got that award, that designation, I kind of had to go do a deep dive and see what the city has to offer here and internationally. And the thing that's immediately clear, the UNESCO City of Music is not like a World Cup, you win it, and that's it. It's meant to begin a conversation. If you're designated as a UNESCO City of Music, it's actually, it's not a title, you're bestowing a responsibility. And you have to, it's almost like you have to keep earning that title. And I'm so glad that ADMAF and Abu Dhabi Festival are having this conversation, because this is part of what it is to be a city of music, part to have interesting and frank conversations. And for here we have 3 wonderful panelists who all come here from their own perspectives. We have Ihab Darwish, and we have Fatima bin Safwan and Mariam Ayda. This is very brief, but I'll let them introduce themselves in terms of what they do, and before we really start kicking off. We'll begin with yourself, Mariam.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good night. My name is Mariam. I go by the name Minova as my artist name, and I'm a singer-songwriter and a producer. I make alternative indie music, and I've recently just released 2 of my singles that have gone pretty successful and I'm pretty happy about. I started making music at a really young age and just recently started taking it seriously, and basically know most of the things I do from the internet, and just recently I've finished the pro program and have learned most of my things on there too. Yeah?
Hey everyone, my name is FAFA. I'm from Abu Dhabi, and I'm a singer, songwriter, producer. I graduated from Berklee, New York, a master's program last year. I've been doing music for, a really long time. I started probably when I was like 6, and then I was doing musical theater. Whenever I had the chance, I'd go to Dubai, I'd be doing these shows. Almost failed 10th grade, but that's a different story about that. Just all for the love of music, to be honest. So super serious about it. And my music is one that I tell stories, experiences that I've been through, friends, all that, and just to hope that, we all connect and just, have good vibes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ihab Darwish. I've always loved music since the age of 10. My first official appearance was in 2018 with the amazing platform Abu Dhabi Festival. I've launched my first album, Waves of My Life, and my second album, Hikayat, which was in 2021 in the physical distance. And recently, my last project was the Symphony of 3, combining with the 2 amazing composers. So I would like really to thank Abu Dhabi Festival and Abu Dhabi Music Foundation for the continuous support during my career. Thank you.
So we have, an interesting panel who all come to, to music from different perspectives, as singers, songwriters, composers, project managers, consultants. So you guys have kind of done it all. So within that perspective, let's kind of like slowly unpack this idea of city of music, and then before we kind of really focus in on certain aspects. So Ihab, city of music. As someone that's kind of, because we know the title, we hear it, it's mentioned nicely, in conversations and conferences. But as somebody, and I'll ask you all of this, as somebody on the ground, as an artist, working every day, creating something, what does that mean for you? And has there been any kind of changes, to your creative life?
Of course, now as you mentioned that Abu Dhabi being entitled for the city, of music, it's a responsibility. And because of the serious achievements and initiatives that UAE has been doing lately, and this gave me like a lot of trust and a lot of, let's say, empowerment to proceed further. And of course, being a composer, it's a responsibility, because at the end of the day, you need to convey, a mission and a vision of your country, and you need to convey that in the best way possible, locally and abroad. So by having like such platforms like the Music Foundation and Berklee and other entities that support the musicians and the composers, it's a great responsibility, but at the same time, it's really amazing. It will allow us to reach and to deliver our vision and values.
FAFA also, because the thing about City of Music as well, also, it's meant to kind of, you join a partnership, a network, of other, of other cities. I mean, I know it's still early days yet, and you have been abroad, but does it kind of, I guess, as someone who lived in Abu Dhabi, that does it kind of give Abu Dhabi a different perspective for you, being designated as a city of music?
Well, when I first heard that I got the designation, I was pretty aware that it didn't mean that it was already existed. It was something that needed to be built upon, and I was pretty excited about it because, so my background, I used to work for the Department of Culture and Tourism. And while I was there in product development, I was the only person who had a musical background and someone who was working as an artist at the same time as working my 9 to 5. And so they hired me for that reason, and they asked, what's going on with the homegrown scene? Because we have a music department, but they're more involved with classical and traditional music, as you know. We have a huge underground scene in the UAE in general, with indie pop and R&B and hip hop and all these different genres that is not really being explored too freely, like in terms of like outside of this region, like it's known just here, And for me, I think being in New York, especially, I saw the city of music. Like I saw how alive it was and how different artists had different places that they could perform. That was the one thing that I really enjoyed seeing, is that the freedom to perform at these different places. Now, somewhere here, you have to have all these permits. There's a lot of like policies behind things that actually doesn't help. In terms of creativity and in terms of being able to perform at these places and to engage with the audience and to have, exposure in that in the best way. So my hope is that with this designation of the City of Music, maybe they can relook at some of these policies that they had over the years, because it's been a year, right? But from what I've seen from my side of like music and the contemporary side of music, there hasn't really been much change in terms of being able to perform at these different venues and to engage with these different artists, because so far it's been covers. It's still been covers. It's still been 3 sets of 45, one person, instead of, okay, this person's going to perform 20 minutes, this person's going to perform like all in one night. And I think if we can get to that point where we really become alive with the City of Music in terms of contemporary side, then I can have a little more hope in like what we're doing in the underground, so that we can come to the surface.
What about yourself, Mariam? Because the designation kind of come just as your career is kind of taking off in terms of just getting stuff, getting stuff produced, getting stuff released, and being well received. Or, does it kind of move the dial for you? Does it kind of, I guess, give you a push that perhaps you didn't know you wanted or needed?
Well, at the moment, compared to how the music was before the designation, there's a lot of promotion for small artists as well, but not to the point where it's making enough change to promote contemporary artists. Because throughout the years in UAE, music has been promoted, but it's, like Fafa mentioned, it's mostly cultural and classical music. Whereas now, there are a lot of talented but underrated artists here that are trying to get their way into the music scene, but it's really hard, especially in the Middle East, with it being so diverse in culture, but it's just hard to really put your music out there when it's not, aligned with what's already popular, such as, the cultural music or classical music. And if you want to reach an audience, for example, in America, because I'm sure a lot of musicians here also make English music, so trying to reach all the way in America is going to be really hard, because a lot of the stuff here is already hard enough to get out and really spread and promote you as an artist. There aren't really agencies to help you get yourself out there, help artists in general to evolve within their music career. If they're doing something in music, it's probably on the side just to be able to have it with them while still working a 9-to-5 job. And it's so hard to maintain, especially as a new artist. Being a new artist is harder in itself, because you have the budget, you have to figure out, how you're going to put yourself out there, how you're going to market your music. A lot of the time, having a successful music career is making sure people hear it. And it's really hard to let people hear it if you're not marketing right. And that's the sad truth, is that a lot of the time, being within the music industry, you're going to have to invest in yourself and your music, because it's the only way people are genuinely going to listen to your stuff.
The thing is, Ihab, right? I was wondering how you feel about that, because Fafa and Mariam are talking about, there's a lot of focus. It's kind of being done towards kind of big, cultural projects, and you've been a beneficiary, of those cultural, and they're amazing projects. The Symphony of Three, which was done by Abu Dhabi Festival, was fantastic, But do you think perhaps, there's a little bit, too much of a focus, just generally in terms of what's being supported, these kind of, these kind of big cultural, quote unquote, cultural projects, as opposed, to more modern contemporary stuff, which I can also argue as being quite cultural, because it comes from the culture. How do you feel how do you feel about that?
So you meant more on the cultural side?
For example, more stuff that, the Fafa and Mariam is doing. They're saying there's a lot of focus being given to big projects, symphonies, and what do you think about that? Should there be a rebalance?
Actually, yes, I totally agree. There's a lot of focus on big kind of investment project, like musical project that tackles culture. But at the same time, I can sense that now they are focusing as well, on some small, how can I say, small projects, even not like the big ones. So there is, yes, potential now. There are some, organizations like ADMAF now, they're starting to do that even before, and other entities, they are supporting such artists. So there are some opportunities now coming on the pipeline. But mainly, let's say in the past time, it's more on the big scale. They're focusing on the big kind of projects. But now I think, yes, they are kind of investing more on artists with small enterprise project or something like that.
The thing is, Fafa, it makes sense to invest in those things, right? Because there's a story to tell, there's a goal, right? Is it also a case? Is it also a case where, when it comes to these smaller or kind of the stuff that you guys are doing, is it also down to you guys are not articulating perhaps the benefits of what you guys can deliver?
No, I don't think I don't think articulation is an issue. But the fact that we can sit here and have this conversation to begin with is a step in the right direction. So really, thank you. I think Okay, so I'm just gonna tell a story that when I started my career here. So I started really in Chicago. That's where I started doing my music. I was being involved with rappers and these producers, just having features, and that really inspired me to continue on and do my music. I came here, like there was karaoke that was great, and I had a lot of fun because I was on stage and it was fun. And then I started releasing my music, and people would say, "Ah, this is really great, but you're singing in English, aren't you Emirati? Shouldn't you be singing in Arabic?" I'm like, well, I see your point. However, I come from a multicultural background. I'm half Honduran and I'm half Emirati, and I don't like to neglect either side. And I've grown up here, and I've been in international school, and I've been surrounded by a lot of people who speak English for the most part. I wasn't really surrounded by that part of my culture, sadly, growing up, and I'm grateful that I can be more involved in it now. So when that is the issue that happens. It's just that there's like almost a stereotype or a expectation that, oh, because you're from here, you should be doing this. Now, I'm not one to be do as I'm told, so I kind of go against the grain a little bit and do what feeds my soul. And with that, I've had a lot of I've had a lot of great opportunities and great support throughout the years because I held my ground and I kept grounded in what I wanted to do. And I've been able to be involved in projects that were not being given to Emiratis, you know, because they thought, well, Emiratis, they do this thing, they don't do this. And I'm like, well, they do both, you know. So that's kind of one of the things that I want people to recognize, is that there isn't just one way of being somebody, like a nationality, whether it's Emirati, whether it's Honduran, whether it's whatever. You know, you are who you are as a person, and you shouldn't be tied to your passport. So that's one of the things that I've been slowly like introducing throughout the years, because I do recognize that I don't look traditional, but it's expression of my artistry, and it's been very positive. Surprisingly to myself, which is a very like happy surprise that people have been so receptive of me. And I think it's just the beginning. I think we're going to see a lot of different creativity, like not just within music, but within the performing arts in itself. I think a lot of things will come out because people will be more confident to show it, you know, instead of being backed down into a corner saying, no, you shouldn't be doing that, you should be doing something else. So I think there is hope, and I think we're in the step in the right direction so far.
Have you been feeling that way, Mariam, as well? Because, you know, the kind of music that you're doing, you know, the indie, like, you know, kind of indie pop, and kind of really, really interesting, you know, again, it's not kind of what you'd associate, you know, quote unquote, with Emirati musicians. I mean, was there a little bit as well of that, you know, some barriers to break?
Definitely. I mean, being part Emirati, people would question why I wouldn't add at least some Arabic into my music. Like FAFA, I was really encouraged. I was surrounded by, you know, English shows. English. I was in a private school, and it's mostly taught English there. So the media around me was mostly English, and the music, my influences, how I make the music I do today, like the sound I was able to form, is all through being inspired by these artists that I've been listening to since I was young, and it shaped, you know, how I produce and how I write and the music I write about. It's just having the expectation of people thinking, oh, but you're part Emirati, maybe you should do this because you have a better chance for press or being seen or you know, anything like that. But especially with the genre I'm doing, it's not really a well-known genre compared to, you know, pop or like any major music genres out there. I'm glad I stuck to my roots, because when I started making the music I did, I knew there was an audience for me, and I did it because I enjoyed it. Like Fafa, you know, she stayed her ground, she did the music she wanted to do, and because of that, she's able to be content with what she's able to create, and that's what I envisioned when, you know, starting out with music. I want to be able to put something out there that I'm able to enjoy, and not just for money or fame or popularity. I genuinely want to connect with people with my music, and the only way I can do that is by enjoying the process and enjoying what I'm creating. And so I find it very limiting when people expect, oh no, but you're supposed to do this because you're from this country, or this is how you're supposed to sound like or look like. But in this day and age, I mean, my generation, it's not like the past generations. We have access to technology, to the media, to the internet, and I'm really grateful for that because like I mentioned earlier, I learned most of the things I know from the internet. And because of that, it's able to give me opportunities like learn how to produce my own music, connect with musicians all around the world virtually. And because of that, I'm able to have opportunities that I would have never gotten if I just stayed, disconnected with everyone. So
Yeah. Oh,
If I can just add to that point. So what I found throughout the years of, people being like, oh, you should sing in Arabic, you should sing Arabic. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that. Well, within the last probably 2 years, I started to look at it a little bit more closely and ask myself why. Why are they so like adamant on me doing this Arabic music, and why can't I just do what I want to do? And what I've recognized is that, yeah, it is part of my culture, and it is part of me neglecting my culture at the same time. So recently I've been trying to develop more of a sound that fusions both of the loves that I have between the East and the West. But saying that, oh, you should just do this doesn't allow for innovation, right? Doesn't allow for new things to come in, because who knows, maybe a new genre is going to come out of this region that we didn't even expect.
I mean, that's the thing that that you've been doing a lot, Ihab. I mean, from the Symphony of Three, from Hikayat, is that the new Emirati sound? Do we have to kind of move on from this idea of like this is an Emirati sound and what you're doing and what you're doing and what you're doing? Do we have to kind of elevate the conversation more?
Yes, exactly. When it comes for me as a music composer, maybe it's a little bit different, because I have to work with so many styles and so many genres, and I have to orchestrate it, in a lot of things and infuse a lot of things. But at the same time, I believe that each artist has his identity, has his own style, and he needs to excel in what he's doing. But from time to time, it's really important to kind of collaborate or create a little bit different, thinking that he's supposed to be. It's nice to infuse these things.
But do you feel that pressure as well, that you have to, because you are working on big national projects is there that pressure? Between the goals, because there's a project and you have to kind of fulfill certain things. That tension between that, and your creative impulses. I mean, how has that been tough to manage?
Well, in some way, yes, there are some level of pressure that most of the people they expect you to do, like for example, pure Emirati kind of music, like just pure without any other Western instruments or any Western genre. So, but like what I'm trying to do now is actually I'm merging everything together. I'm creating different styles, different kind of music that is embedded, different collaboration from different artists. You can see a hip hop with an opera singer. You can see an Emirati singer with let's say a rap singer. So I'm kind of infusing these kind of genres just to break, this pressure, and people they start appreciating that music is like kind of a universal language. You can communicate even with the same style or different style.
Yeah. Now, I guess, I was chatting to people. I remember, like, just during my research, I spoke to, some journalists and some other cultural figures from cities that got the designation, Mannheim, Sevilla, and they're saying a lot of the time, when they got the designation of City of Music, it opened up a lot of much needed conversation. Like it almost kind of, in a way, they almost kind of had a bit of a root canal, of the music scene, and which kind of brings us to this idea, right? I mean, it's like, as I said, this City of Music is a responsibility. You have to keep it, you have to earn it, which means you also have to open up talk about the challenges that you face. And in FAFA, you were very, passionate about this idea. I mean, what are some of the challenges? I mean, and you hinted at this earlier in your first response. What are the biggest challenges that's kind of facing Emirati musicians and just general musicians, in Abu Dhabi, first of all?
In general, okay. So I think one of the challenges is that we've gotten so used to, and I'm speaking on the contemporary side because, I'm like, I don't know much about the other side, like in terms of policies and everything. But on my side of music, we've gotten very, very used to cover bands. That's something that I think it destroys creativity. Because I have friends who are original artists, but they're also doing 3 sets of 45, 6 days a week, and I just wonder, when do you have time? Because now it's become robotic, right? And it's the only thing that that they're gonna get hired for, to be seen and to get exposure, to get hopefully people on their Instagram to listen to their music, is to be by performing other people's music. And it's not even that they're doing a lot that's different to it. But there are some bands who are like Tasty Biscuits, for example, in Dubai. They take covers and they make it their own, and then they like plug in some of their original songs, and they're doing really, really well. And I'm so happy that that's something that's happening, and I do hope more musicians follow along who are full-time musicians, who are working professional musicians. Now, for the ones that are, who were like myself, who were working a separate job, a 9 to 5, and doing music at the same time, we kind of have more freedom to say no to things. I've said no to so many things because it wasn't aligned with who I was, as in, I'm not doing these 3 sets of 45. I'm not gonna go learn these other people's music, because I need to be focusing on developing my music. And by saying no all of these years, it's gotten to me where I am at this point, where I was able to perform for the halftime at the NBA because they knew I wasn't a cover artist, and that I was taking my art very seriously. But another challenge that I think I see here, the face always changes, but the brand stays the same, and it's tokenism. You put on a cultural garb, you sing a few covers, you get recognition, and then you disappear. And there's no development. And it's very sad, because I'm sure that these musicians, they think, okay, I'm gonna be doing this, I'm getting notoriety, I'm getting this exposure, I'm in these magazines, and I'm doing these kind of gigs, and then all of a sudden people are kind of tired of you, because you're a one-trick pony, and now you don't transition into that space of original music and finding yourself as an artist, because people are so used to seeing you this way. And as soon as you take off your national dress, they're like, well, just another Joe on the street. And I think that's really sad, because it is a representation of our culture, but to be wearing our national dress, to be proud of that. But there are sometimes that they think that's the only way that they're gonna get recognized, And I believe mixing the two for the international audience. We are a melting pot here in the UAE. There's nationalities from all over, and there's only 10% that are Emirati. And so I'm just gonna finish my point. The challenges with all of that is the permits, for example.
Permits.
Permits.
Because currently, each the venue has to
600 dirhams. It's like 600 or 800 dirhams, I believe, for each performer to perform for the night. So which is incurred by the venue operator. Yeah, so they pay that to DCT, right? And the issue I find with that, it limits the venue a lot, because you could be hiring 2-3 acts a night, but you could only hire one, so you're gonna do the 3 sets of 45, and you're not allowing people to see the city of music, to see these bands and these artists, and what if I want to go play on the street, you know what I mean, and a heavy footfall area, and this falls under tourism as well. Yeah.
I mean, what about you, Mariam? How do you find exposure, in a sea full of covers? Because you have all this music that you want to show. Do you just forget about playing live and just focus online, because this is where you got a lot of your your attention?
Technically, yeah. I don't really do much open mics or much covers like most of the artists here do. I basically just focus on the music I make in my bedroom, and focus on releasing them and connecting with the right people to get it out there. A lot of the exposure I've gotten is through the media more than the country itself, because my music is in English, and the reason I chose to sing in English is because it would resonate to a wider audience, whereas if I chose to sing in Arabic, it would be limited to this region. And being able to connect with so many people, and having them reach out to me, telling me how they found comfort in my music, and it's helping them through this situation, warms my heart, because knowing I'm able to provide more than just my music is honestly phenomenal, because in this day and age, people can be very disconnected to each other and just like lonely at times. And even like the leading cause of illnesses, I think, is anxiety or just anything to do with mental health. And attending at one of Berklee's talks like this, I think around late last year, they were touching up upon this subject on how music is a big part of being able to heal a lot of mental illnesses. And so being a musician, like everyone aspiring to be a musician, putting music out there, you're technically a doctor. Being able to heal so many people that are able to find comfort in your music and, you know, heal off of music that medications wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess talking about the mental health stuff, you know, Ihab, you know, a big issue that you know, musicians normally face, I mean, universally, but perhaps acutely here, you know, in the UAE, and you mentioned this, is the matter of time. Because a lot of this, I mean, I know you guys, all of you, you work in second jobs, you know, I mean, you have other work to do. You know, you somehow pulled off a massive symphony, while while doing it in Zoom. You know what I mean? And, you know, as well, you know, logging onto your Slack account at work. So I just kind of wonder, like, I mean, it does raise the question. It's like, because there's not a lot of full-time musicians here, other than pop stars, essentially. You know, or you're working, as Fafa was saying, you know, like, you know, covers back to back. You know, so is that also a problem? Is that an issue?
Yes, it is a challenge. As you mentioned, like for example, when I did the symphony, that I have to dedicate full time, you know, in order to do the symphony. So most of the musicians here, they have like two jobs. Like they work like the normal job, and afternoon they do the music kind of thingy, which is kind of a pressure for them, and it will limit their creative aspect, it will limit their capabilities, will make them more pressured, more anxious. So this is one of the big challenges that I wish that there's like sort of a pardon kind of a leave program, or any kind of let's say program that will allow the musicians to have off from work, yet they are still paid their salaries.
But why though? But why? I mean, there's not a lot of play. I mean, what's the benefit of that? Because I mean, it's like, you're asking for, like I want to make music full time, and I should get paid for it, without selling my own thing. So what's the benefit to that, to the city or to the community, to the country?
Of course. Now music is really rising in UAE, and they're putting a lot of attention now recently on music. So we should have like sort of a support program for musicians to have full time doing their thingy. At the end of the day, they are reflecting culture. They are reflecting, the vision and of the country. So it's very important for the musician to have sort of a space. You cannot work with a lot of creative aspect while you are pressured with other things. You have to have a lot of space, a lot of freedom. You need to work with a comfort zone in order to deliver beautiful art. So I believe, like, if you find a recognized artist or willing to be, or serious in his domain, I believe that there should be sort of a program that will endorse Emiratis and will endorse musicians to pursue their dreams, and especially when there are projects that will actually kind of align with the strategic objectives of UAE. So I believe like those people or these musicians should have the platform or the freedom to work.
Fafa, should Emirati musicians be more savvy? Because I mean, the way Ihab was saying is that, like, he's saying all the right things, like, what we're doing. The UAE is investing in music. We are, by doing this, we're aligning ourselves with the strategic objectives. Are these at the end of the day, you have to make a case.
Right. Yeah. I might play devil's advocate for a second. Just speaking from experience.
Yeah.
And from conversations I've had with musicians in the past, of people being like, I had my 9 to 5, I was doing my music didn't work out, went back to my 9 to 5. And like, this is a hard industry. It's hard everywhere, internationally. That's why, not many people make it, because they give up. And that kind of weeds out the serious people throughout, the people who are like, well, I want to go back to my comfort zone. But from what I've experience, of what I've learned, my best art was created when I was outside of my comfort zone. When I was completely just like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing something, you know? And working that 9 to 5, which I applied to that job. I have a hospitality bachelor's. And when I was applying for university, because again, from conversation, almost failed, right? So I was like, what can I do that's something that I'm going to enjoy? Because I was failing school because I didn't have music. So I wasn't motivated. You know, I wasn't motivated to continue high school because I was like, what am I doing? What am I going to study? What am I going to do? It doesn't make any sense. Went into hospitality because I saw that there was an opportunity for entertainment. There was an opportunity for tourism. I saw back in 2013 that, okay, you know what? This is going to be a thing someday. And I want to get on it before the train rides off without me. I want to be with the conductor. So I went to DCT because I found a gap. I found a gap, and I was like, maybe I can help. You know, maybe I can help fill this gap a little bit. And meeting the musicians that gave up on their dreams, it's really sad to give up on your dream. But it goes to show, like, how bad do you want it? How bad are you gonna hustle for this? Because I know, like, for myself, for example, I'm still going. I quit my job, yeah, but I'm still trying to find different avenues on how to navigate this industry and how I can get funding for albums, for PR, for marketing, for all these things. But I also don't believe that things should just be given. I think you really need to prove yourself and prove to yourself every single day. You know, and those people will jump on board and people will be willing to support you then. But I think if we start with just being like, okay, you want to do music, let's go get you, let's have you do music. You're in your comfort zone. You don't know what you're going to achieve. And you might not survive the industry outside of here, you know? And I think thriving is the objective. So we need to learn how to survive first.
I mean, Mariam, you've been kind of surviving on yourself. I mean, is that the way to go? Like the way that you're kind of doing it? I mean, do you like to have any outside help? Do you need to have any outside help?
As an independent artist, I think any musician would really love the help because it's honestly it's a hard industry to get into, especially with it being so saturated now. I mean, releasing music hasn't been, it's been as easier as ever. You're able to distribute your songs to any platform through distributors online, and for free as well.
But when you say help, what does that mean? Is it like in terms of finance or opportunities to perform, opportunities? I mean, how do we define that idea of help?
I mean, it really goes both ways. Both ways will definitely help a new artist, especially if they're new to the industry and no one really knows about them or their music. Opportunities would get them to a point to make connections, and that's something you really need to keep in mind when you're in the industry, is that connections will get you a long way. And if you are looking for connections, joining the Berklee Pro
Yeah, we're doing that
program,
here, absolutely.
Yeah. Joining the pro program would definitely get you the connections you need as a base, and from there you could just expand into knowing and meeting different people. Yes, I do most of the things I do in my room, I connect virtually, but it's also nice to get in touch with people around you physically, because communicating is something we as humans need to survive. I mean,
Right. I think one of the things that I really, really love, they stopped doing them so much now, but when I was first starting out, there was a lot of open mics. There was someone named Abo. He's gone. He left the country, and I don't think anybody took over after that for the open mics.
That's right.
But I mean, I was doing Pizza Express. I was doing Tribeca in Dubai. I was doing the open mics here in Abu Dhabi because I was like, any opportunity I could get.
Do you need more? Like, should there be like? I mean, since you've been kind of like you're trying to find everyone. Is there enough opportunities, or there should be more?
I think opportunities come if you allow it, right? If you're expecting someone to give something to you, you're gonna be waiting a long time. You need to go and get it. So that's what I mean. Like by doing these open mics, that allowed me to meet so many people, and I think it was one of the first things I did was at the Fridge, and then shortly after that, I got a call from NYU, and I did Hikaya, and they were like, "Oh, you're Emirati, and we love what you're doing. Like, you do you." And I went and I performed, and from there, it just kind of like took off, and then I was involved in these different projects and this and that. But I think it's because I put myself out there physically, and I wasn't satisfied with what was going on, so I just made it known that I'm here, I'm serious, I'm singing, and this is what I do. Don't box me. And it's really helped in my career. Like, I mean, I've gotten a lot of rejection for sure, but I've also turned down more now. So it's kind of go full circle.
I mean, you have, but look, what we're talking about here a lot of time is basically infrastructure, of the scene, right? And and one of the pillars of that, and it's quite timely that we're talking about because we're here at Berklee, is education, is music education. And you were discussing this like off stage, like about how you have a young child of your own, you want to get him involved, get him more immersed in music education, but there's a lack of like opportunities here in terms of like quality music education. I mean, from a younger age, not like Berklee age. So can you, which is open for a lot of ages, but for the youth. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, actually, I do believe that we need like sort of to maybe enhance the musical education system, like on early stage. Usually, like if you go to Europe, there are like dedicated musical schools, like from really early stages, from grade 1, 2, 3, and until you graduate to grade 12. So they will actually prepare you fully to be a professional musician before you reach the university level. So, and this is something that we've been discussing like from time to time with the ministry. We had a workshop with the Ministry of Education, and we were discussing that it's like really crucial if we can start like including the musical education program from early stage, and maybe we can select maybe some schools, not necessarily like all the schools, but some schools dedicated for musical kind of education from early stages, that will really help build a very strong musical generation. Yes, exactly, and they will reach the stars, when they finish.
And also they're future decision makers as well.
Yes,
Yeah, because FAFA, you were saying, a lot of the time just from your work professional life, is that there's not a lot of music people making decisions about music. So, and for yourself, music education was quite important to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I started taking piano when I was 6, and then shortly after I started singing lessons. And I was involved in plays, in musical theater, like anywhere I could go. And like the musical theater was done in Dubai. So I had to drive every day. When my mom could, I was about 15 at the time. When my mom could, she would drive me. Other times I had to take the bus. So it's like a 2-hour bus there. Then I had to take the train, go to Emirates Mall, go do the rehearsals, spend a whole day, whatever, go take the bus back, go home, take a taxi, go home. And by that time, that was already 15 hours. And then I had to get up, go to school the next day, and then repeat, rinse and repeat for about like 2-3 weeks before then that was pre-production. But the opportunity was in Dubai. It wasn't here. I wasn't finding it here. So I was being called to wherever I felt that I could thrive and that I could learn because I wasn't finding it. And that's what I was doing during my adolescence. It was any chance I could get on stage. It's not necessarily I wanted to, be in musical theater. I just wanted to sing. I just wanted to be on stage. But that opened up a lot for me. And I think in terms of education for the performing arts and for music, it goes farther than just wanting to be a musician. I think it's really beneficial in general for confidence, for self-esteem, for public speaking. These are all skills that are like necessary, and especially in the world of business and in a lot of other things, it could really help individuals succeed in their career path. Even if it's not music that they want to go to, at least they will have a diverse education and creativity to do what they need to do, because I mean that's where creative problem solving comes from, right? If you need to activate that part of the brain. So I think neglecting it isn't helping, and it doesn't mean that you're going to become that. But it definitely will help in whatever career you do choose. You know what I mean?
And just before I speak, just ask you, Mariam, after this question, I'm going to open it up to the audience for some questions and answers. If you don't, so just have your questions ready. We're going to have a roving mic. You're involved in the Pro program in Berklee. But also at the same time, it's funny because like on one hand you're involved in the Pearl program, where you're working, with other people connecting, and then you're creating music in your bedroom essentially. So I mean, how important is that exposure? That knowledge. I mean, because you're a one-woman show essentially. Do you feel that you need to have that extra knowledge?
Well, there's definitely a lot you can learn when you're learning physically, especially with mentors in front of you, because you have the freedom to ask them questions on anything, right? Anything you're wondering, and it's a really hands-on experience, so you're able to learn so many things since you're involved in it. If you're learning everything, if you're learning theory, for example, and you're not playing the piano, everything you learned won't stay in your long-term memory because you're not applying it. Whereas being in the Pearl program, being able to ask these questions, involve yourself in the process of, music making, music production, learning everything, it helps you get into it even more. Everything you're learning sticks in your head because you're involving yourself. And I think that's really important, especially for the experience and the relationships you gain out of it and the connections again. But at the same time, you could also learn these things online, but it's definitely way easier when you're learning it physically. I learned most of my things online, and that takes a lot of interest. And if you're really interested in learning music, it shouldn't be a problem for you because you'd find these things fascinating. I feel like you're more motivated to learn something when you're not forced into it, and that's basically how my music journey evolved. I didn't take any traditional lessons. I learned how to play guitar on the internet, how to produce on the internet, everything I know on the internet. And basically just applied everything I know into the music I make now. So the exposure you get will definitely be helpful. Just retain all the information you can get, but at the same time, it'll make no difference where you get it from because it's still the same information.
Absolutely.
Can I touch on the Berklee thing?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, because you did the pro program here, I went to Berklee, New York, and I do agree. You can learn all this online, but what I found though was like one of the most beneficial things that I got out of my experience was not just learning obviously from the professors. It was the relationships that developed out of that program, all the connections, all the collaborations. Because now I was in a place where collaboration was everywhere. Here, it's not as much. It's beginning. It's starting to.
But
to kind of develop.
but you know what it needs.
But you know what it needs exactly. And what I found by going to Berklee over there and by doing these collaborations, I was able to really hone into what sound I actually wanted. And it's funny because I'd be asked this question by journalists like yourself, being like, okay, so how does your culture influence your music? That's a favorite question.
I didn't ask that question. Just letting.
No. It wasn't him.
Just clarify.
Yeah, it wasn't him. But that is a question that gets asked a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and you go and you sit there and you're like, I don't know,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. But I found the answer when I was over there, and it's because I was able to be around so many different people.
Yeah.
So many different cultures and so many different kinds of music that I was able to realize. I'm like, oh, my culture has everything to do with my music, with the way that I sound, with the way I do my runs, with the instrumentation that I choose. It's there. It might not be in your face, but it definitely exists in the music.
That's the only quote that we like. That's great. It makes us write a better article. I'm just saying. I guess can I open it up? We'll open it up a little bit. We've got about 5-10 minutes for some questions and answers. That's the weird mic thing there. Okay, cool.
But it works.
Yeah, he's gonna pass you a Walkman.
Hi. I'm hearing what you guys are going through for music is what you just replace the word music with visual art, and it's exactly the same. It's the opportunity to present your works. And when my friends who are involved in the visual art sector, they would say, where can we exhibit? It's like where you guys work, where can we perform? And invariably, the visual artist would have to go to a hotel, to the Sheraton or Hilton. على أيامنا, and we're talking a few decades ago. So
before the internet.
Before the internet. So this whole process it wasn't dealt with at that time. We had to go, and again, pre-internet, I used to go and buy books about art and whatnot, and I had to go and do it old school, learn about it that way. And then, of course, the internet came, and that has facilitated many, many things. I'm so encouraged by you all, and I'm inspired by you all. And I think what you guys are doing, Maisa and your team, mashallah, barakallah fikum, you're doing a great job. I want to see and I want to hear what you guys have to offer. How do I hear what you have to offer? And how do we hear? Is there a Berklee radio station?
We're putting everything out on the YouTube channel.
YouTube channel.
Yeah, and the great thing as well about programs is that even though we're helping facilitate the creation of works, we own no royalties or any rights to the music of the students. We just share so that we can find, and we also love to, because of our pride, things that we've achieved, through them and with them, try to have create a network through that where they can meet each other. I believe you've met other pearl artists from other previous rounds, so we try to create that.
I'm hearing the word Pearl and Pro. Are they the same programs or different programs?
It's
Pearl,
for performance
Lulu.
artistry and leadership, and
Okay.
it's a talent accelerator program.
Okay.
Where we help artists gain a lot of tools that they need to have in the industry. And like Rima was mentioning, like this is actually, we give you the tools, but at the end of the day, it's what you
do
want
with
to
it.
do with them. And we also
But beyond Berklee, though, I mean, how do we get these artists heard? How do we get Ihab Darwish heard?
If I can,
Please.
yeah.
Thank you.
and our platform.
Go ahead, Ihab.
All right. So basically, we can say that recently we have applied for the Emirati Musicians Association.
Yeah, I was gonna save that till the end, but now you can kind of say it. But I mean, this is actually this is quite like fresh news. I mean, so can you please just tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's very, very important for this.
So such great news, thanks guys. So we applied for it, and this is the first time we got the
The
Emirati Musicians Association, and we have founded it with 20 Emirati members. And of course, there's a lot of objectives and vision behind this. Part of this is like training them, making them ready, building their image, creating sort of guidelines, processes, regulations for all musicians, for Emirati musicians. Like, for example, setting a cap for their fees, making them feel appreciated on platforms.
Emirati-based musicians?
Now,
Emirati national.
Emirati national musicians. Yeah. No, that's the first step. Exactly. And we are opening it. Yeah. Yes. We can open that. We are starting with Emiratis, and then we are opening for non-Emiratis.
So what is the plan for this thing, for the association, to be almost like a conduit eventually between the industry, government, and the music scene and the artists from the UAE, as well as Emiratis?
So the thing is, this Emirati, the association, will entitle us actually to create bridges and open business opportunities with governments. So we can having funds and creating projects for artists that will make them, for example, like shine with their career. So building their career, building their image, putting processes, guidelines, creating projects, a lot of stuff. And the most important is like having a voice, having one voice, uniting them all under one umbrella, that they relate to this association, which is we need. Like when you are an artist, you would like to start your career, you would like to start your So you need to refer to some place. You need to ask questions. How my music for example, will be copyrighted? How can I start? What shall I do? How can I be protected? So we have all these answers by creating, and we can sign up a lot of MOUs with so many other associations and government entities. So I think this is like, hopefully it will be like one of good solutions for future for artists.
I mean, just one final thing here about that, and I'll finish off with this, is that he's talking about association, but really what he's talking about also is a community. He's talking about a scene. And you mentioned, there's a bit of a scene, you said here,
Yeah.
underground, but, okay, But is it really a scene? Like, is it a community? Is
Okay.
it because you've seen it in New York when you traveled and everything.
Yeah. So actually, this is a conversation I had at the Sika Art Fest a few weeks ago, and they were talking about how, how can you get the executives to start listening to y'all? You know, because they bring in all of these A-list celebrities in, and all these big time artists, paying them millions and millions, and these budgets. How can you get them to listen to y'all? Like what do they need to do? And I was like, well, it's not up to the executives, is it? Because as I said before, we're an underground scene. It's up to all of us as artists to build those staircases up to the surface, right? And right now, we're not so much operating as a community, more so as individuals. Everybody wants the same thing, but I don't really see people working together to get it. There needs to, like having that one voice. All these voices need to round up together and be like, okay, yeah, we're in charge of this. We need to show that we're serious. We need to keep proving that we can do this, and kind of put our foot down with these things. I mean, and I'm grateful now that we have people like Thais, who's here tonight, who does artist development and consulting, and she's helping a lot of artists get their voices heard. And it comes to people like Berklee and like NYU and all these entities to kind of just bring us all together to be taken seriously. But we need to come together as a community, and I think it's not quite there yet, but it's not obsolete either. It's on its way.
Final thoughts, Mariam, about that?
Yeah, I agree with everyone, working individually and not really spending time to, form the community that's needed to create those stairs, especially for the new generation, wanting to pursue music. I think it's really important to come together because community is what's going to keep it going. If no one's working together, then there's no progress that's going to be done, nothing significant at least. And I really love what his community is doing because it's really removing that barriers with the collaborations like you mentioned. And I just really hope it expands with contemporary music as well and just within the music industry in the Middle East. And yeah.
I think we should just start with having venues open to the musicians, because
Definitely.
that's how you find people.
Definitely.
Really.
It kind of goes back to where we were saying at the beginning.
Everybody's
Is the,
listening.
and talking about bringing people together, we would like to thank the Abu Dhabi Music and Art Foundation, Abu Dhabi Festival, and Berklee Abu Dhabi for bringing us all here today. This is the first of many conversations about this topic. So thank you all for coming here, and the Abu Dhabi Festival continues. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much.